To implement authentication and authorization, the first thing we need to implement is registering the user. So currently we have this registration form, but nothing happens when we click the register button. Now, before we start coding, let me give you a quick overview of the changes we need to make here to implement registering the users. So let's go back to Postman. We have this endpoint /API/users. If we send an HTTP post request to this endpoint, we can create a new user. Here in the body of the request, we should pass all the information about the user as a JSON object. So here we select raw and then JSON. Now we can add a JSON object with 3 key value pairs. The first one is email, which we set to a valid email like user1@domain.com. The second is password, which we set to 123456. And the third one is name. So these are the properties that this endpoint expects to receive. This is purely my implementation. In your applications, your backend might expect other properties. Now, let's go ahead and send this request to the server. So we get a response with the status 200, which means successful. And here in the body of the response, you can see our user object. Here we have this ID property that uniquely identifies this user. We also have name and email properties. And as you can see, password is not here for security reasons. Now, let's see what happens if we send this request one more time. This time we get a 400 response, which means bad request. And here in the body, you can see the error message, user already registered. So in your applications, whether you are going to build the backend yourself or someone else is going to build it for you, this is how your backend should behave. You should have an endpoint for registering users. So that endpoint should receive an HTTP post request and it should respond with either 200 or 400. So now you have an understanding of how the client and the server are going to communicate to register a new user. Next, we're going to modify our registration form to send an HTTP request to the backend.